Presented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. I'm going to call it a Wacko Wednesday edition. What do you think, Fancy Brian? Welcome back, big guy.
I was about to do a Wacko, one of the Looney Tunes, the Warner Brothers, and it just left me. I was about to do it, and it just left me.
A week ago at this time, I was in Vegas.
Yeah.
I've been bragging quite a bit. You know, finally took a little time off, went to Vegas and
Well deserved.
And as fate would have it, last Wednesday, the Wackos came out. You know, maybe they were out the whole time, but I just took specific note of them last Wednesday. There were a lot of them.
Like in Vegas, they
were coming out on the streets.
Was there a convention in town? There's always a convention in town in Vegas, usually.
Shriners and Wackos. I think they were both in town, especially the Wackos. Heavy on the Wackos.
It's funny how people get a discount. My sister was at a thing where it was a furry convention at the same time, and that's just an interesting dynamic. That's all I can say.
Now you've got me off task.
Sorry, man. I just wanted to. I wanted to know why all the Wackos were in town for Vegas, and I'm just trying to find a reason.
I think a number of them were probably locals. But let's talk about what this big show, this Wacko show, this Wednesday show might have in store for you, our fair audience. First and foremost, we got Batman, Matt Rothschild. He is co-deviling the entire 4 o'clock hour. So something to look forward to. It'll probably get better then. But in the meantime, Fancy Brian, I was trying to tell you a little stories were going on in the air, and I realized you did not hear my fine telling of the Green Bay sweep story.
Sorry, man.
I don't mean the Paul Hornig Green Bay sweep. I mean
that's the one I'm aware of.
You're aware of the Paul Hornig Green Bay sweep.
Yeah.
Now the Aaron Rodgers or Aaron, damn it. You got me going. Aaron Jones Green Bay sweep.
Uh-huh.
But specifically, I'm talking about the Peter Navarro detailed in a new book, coup d'etat, the soft coup. Let's call it the Green Bay sweep. That was their code name for this coup.
Really?
And Peter Navarro somehow thinks this is exculpatory. Him and Bannon plotted this coup together, and he claims he had over 100 Congress people and senators, Republicans all, one must imagine, and they were all part of the soft coup. And the damn hard coup, the violent coup, got in the way. This is the way it's being explained. And not only did Navarro write a book confessing to this, but Navarro gave further, let's call it testimony that's going to be held against him in a court of law to a reporter over at the Daily Beast.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. And I'm leading with this story yesterday, and we do have some modest updates to the Green Bay sweep, the coup, the soft coup. But the most interesting part is somehow in the telling, the self-telling of the story, Peter Navarro thinks it's somehow exculpatory. Somehow it's exonerating for him to say, well, the violent coup got in the way of our soft coup.
No, officer.
Our electoral coup, our procedural coup.
Yeah, I didn't kill her with a hatchet. I killed her with poison. What? You still did? You still tried to? What? How does it matter whether you still tried to do it?
Well, it's the lead again today. Let's try a different take on the Green Bay sweep, the soft coup, because I was befuddled, as a commentator, as a pundit, as your favorite radio host. I was a little befuddled yesterday telling the story and wondering, why is it Peter Navarro has not been arrested?
How is this happening?
I mean, he's out here. He wrote a book, a confessional book. This is worse than the Zodiac. This is worse than, a Ted Kaczynski manifesto, as far as I'm concerned. Bob Brigham reports over at Raw Story. Watergate's John Dean. You remember him? Did a little jail time himself. He's perplexed the DOJ hasn't arrested Peter Navarro. I don't get it.
He's more of an asset free.
John Dean once appeared on this fine program. Hope he comes back. 844-967-2789. Phone lines open, John. Former Nixon White House counsel John Dean, who was disbarred for his role at the Watergate scandal, voiced his bewilderment that the Department of Justice has not yet criminally charged Peter Navarro. Yet no Sherlock. While the violence unfolded, Trump and Rudy pressed at least one GOP senator to try and delay the electoral count. The soft coup, if you will, the Green Bay sweep. Greg Sargent of the Washington Post reported, it's clear the committee is looking at whether the attack became key to securing that delay. Recall Pence refused to be evacuated. Former Trump advisor Peter Navarro tells Daily Beast getting Republicans to object to Biden electors was designed to delay the count, to kick things back to the states. Back to states like Wisconsin, where we had a fraudulent slate of Republican electors claiming they were the ballot electors, despite the fact that Joe Biden won, and we had already had a recount here in our state.
It kind of fills in a little bit of the backstory there as to why they're still doing this. This was the back part of the plan.
Yes, it is an active plan. It's an active coup. But I read on. Legendary constitutional law expert Lawrence Tribe, who taught Attorney General Merrick Garland at Harvard Law, apparently he didn't teach him to have some backbone, suggested that it appears Navarro committed multiple crimes. Yeah, I think I'm a layman, but I can't quote your statute, but here I go quoting statute on the radio. So this was both one, seditious conspiracy, 18 USC 2384, and two, conspiracy corruptly to obstruct and impede an official proceeding, 18 USC 1512, subsection C2, each a very serious federal felony. But evidently nothing to see here, Mr. Attorney General, Tribe asked. Dean was shocked. Here's a quote. In his new book, former Trump aide Peter Navarro appears to be bragging that he got away with seditious conspiracy. Again, that's the legal term for felony, right? Let me calm it down. Dean was shocked. This is Crudy. In his new book, former Trump aide Peter Navarro appears to be bragging that he got away with seditious conspiracy and conspiracy to obstruct and impede Congress, not to mention several other serious crimes. Apparently, the Department of Justice could care less, ? I don't get it, Dean said. And Crudy complains as well. I'm also complaining. Where are the charges, Mr. Attorney General? So this is where I start the show again today. Today, we talk again about the Green Bay sweep, the soft coup, the confession thereof. Hell, the man wrote a book and published it.
It's galling. I'm just going to say it's galling.
But above and beyond, writing the book, the confessional, if you will, somehow exonerating book because, the violent coup interrupted our less violent coup attempt. But let's not forget, Peter Navarro also did press. And the reporter reveals the moment Peter Navarro realized he may have landed in hot water. Oh, no, I've said too much. A little bit more reporting here. Peter Navarro appeared to realize he said too much at one point in an interview where he told a reporter that he and Steve Bannon plotted an attempted coup to keep Donald Trump in the White House. Did you cross the line there, fella? The former White House trade advisor and apparently coup d'etat specialist, Peter Navarro, revealed in his new memoir that he and Bannon coordinated an effort with Republican lawmakers to stop the certification of Joe Biden's election win. Again, you'd call that a soft coup, or at least I would, which spun into the violent January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. Let's call that the hardened violent coup. But Navarro, told the Daily Beast they had lined up 100 lawmakers, including some senators, to complete their coup, which ultimately failed. a quote. This House Select Committee that's investigating the events of January 6th aren't just looking at the mob that attacked the Capitol, the hard coup, according to the Daily Beast reporter Joe Pagliari. We read extensively from his piece yesterday. They're also looking at the attempt to rip apart the fabric of our republic using the legislative branch. And what we've got here is Peter Navarro saying, look, we had nothing to do with the violence. It didn't work in our favor because it stopped us from doing what we really wanted to do, which was stop the certification of President Biden's win. Again, the soft coup. But here's the thing, according to the Daily Beast reporter, the way to think about this is there was an attempted coup, but that's the hard coup. Someone called this on the record the soft coup. We have a former active White House official saying, while he was in the administration, they were using his power there to put this into play, which I think is absolutely fascinating. I'd use a different term.
Yeah,
incriminating.
Fascinating is not the one I would use.
After the writers were cleared from the Capitol, let's not forget Fancy Brian and all in the audience. 147 Republican lawmakers voted against certifying Joe Biden's election victory. That's despite the hard coup. 147 Republicans voted against. And the Daily Beast reporter, being a good reporter, asked Navarro which ones of the 147 had conspired with him in the prior coup planning. I don't have that list. When I asked Mr. Navarro to talk to me about who he spoke with, he seemed reticent to do so. I think at that point he may have been realizing, oh no, I've said too much. The book and the conversation with me, he details how he got text messages from Steve Bannon. He woke up to messages from people who were on board with this plan, and he was in communication with them that morning before a morning run around the National Mall. You know, get your exercise in. Peter Navarro, you're going to need it in the yard someday. Come back, Devil's Advocates. It's still a coup.
Sedition!
In order to arrest him, the sheriff has to have a charge. And Trump hasn't given him a thing to go on.
Sedition! Come on, show a little backbone.
Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance, reminding you that when you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
You care for the house, the kids, and our future. A Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Spruce up your home with non-toxic vegan candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents that make a perfect holiday gift. Plus, at Wisco Home Goods, we believe in giving back. With our Do Good, Smell Good campaign, a portion of the proceeds go to local charities. So support a Midwestern company that supports our local communities. Order now at wiscohomegoods.com.
I say two. Okay.
chaos and taking names since the Wisconsin uprising. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Wacko Wednesday edition. And you're never wacky when you call this fine program at 844-967-2789. Although I may still characterize you as a wacko, but probably not to your face.
Oh, I'm definitely a wacko, but maybe not for the reasons that you guys would expect. I'm a wacko for different reasons that I have not yet revealed to everybody.
Yes, keep them secret. Some things must be tamped down.
But I figured I'd bring us back in with some soft, cool music.
Some Beatles.
But a softer version.
Yeah, I like it. 844-967-2789. For all you know, this could be the last show I do this year. I don't know. Are we doing another one tomorrow? We haven't figured it out. I'm going to tease right now. I tell you what, come the first of the year, we're going to be super cooler than ever. You'll have to stick around till then to find out why.
And hopefully my eye will stop twitching by then too.
Your eye is twitching?
Oh, it started today. It's great.
You know, I've got a headline. I wanted to come back this segment. America runs on bad jobs. I know this radio station does. I hope it's not work stress causing you all this angst, buddy.
Oh, it's part of a large, it's a smorgasbord, my friend.
A smorgasbord.
It's a large smorgasbord. It just spin the wheel and it just depends on that day. And it's stuff that I usually just go, okay, it's cool.
Would you say we had a plethora of stress?
I would say so.
844-967-2789. We'll get to the bad jobs. What do you think about my update? This coup, the Green Bay sweep. And here's the other part. I know you're not a local, not originally a Wisconsinite, not a Packers fan. But for those of us that are, I found it quite, I didn't want him to use my team's good name to describe a soft coup against the U.S. government. Somehow I took objection to that.
Well, I mean, it was here in Wisconsin, though, right? So what is there a better name for it?
Oh, you mean the coup attempt? Well, the coup attempt, in part, we're one of the tentacles here. We're one of the six or
What I'm
so
saying is if it was part of
swing
New
states.
England, they would have gone with the Patriots, I would think.
The Patriot sweep.
Or something like that. I don't know. I'm just saying I think it's local because of what else would you have?
The Washington football team sweep.
My point is that the most offensive thing about it is not the name for me. It's the whole thing itself. Whatever you call it, it's still, you could call it rainbows and unicorns. I'd be like, I
just don't like them putting my team's label on it. Call it the Patriots. You guys are no cheaters.
Yeah, whatever, man.
Deflate these balls. 844-967-2789. Before we talk about your bad job, I can tell you love it here. Let's get to the phones. Mark, today, your first buddy. Welcome to the big show.
Yeah, well, I take equal offense to them calling it the Green Bay sweep because but it's part of what they're, that who knows if Wisconsin was one of the central, nexuses of this evil that
Well, of course it was. We're a swing state. It was 21,000 votes, the separation between Biden's victory and Trump's loss here. And of course, he won the state in 2016 over Hillary Clinton. So how could he possibly lose it the next time around? Except he did. We know. We recounted it and audited it and did it again.
And in my opinion, the fraudulent electors that they made a slate of should be swept up in any prosecutions, as should the guys authorizing the fraudulent involved in getting those guys together should actually be prosecuted as well. I mean,
who would be the what would be the proper jurisdiction? Would it be Ishozan? Would it be the Dane County District Attorney? Because the crime, the fraud, the false election, and slating of the electors, according to these Republicans, and they all signed off on fraudulent documents to try and make it seem as if they were the ballot electors. Well, that happened in my hometown. That happened in Madison at the state capitol. Would that be a crime for the local district attorney to prosecute, perhaps, Mark?
Well, I think the state attorney general should bring charges against them all, because this is something. I don't know that treason makes attempted sedition and treason should be something they're immune to, because apparently our legislators are immune to prosecution for certain crimes during their tenure in office. But I mean that they should just sweep them up. Said you want a Green Bay sweep? Let's have Wisconsin sweep and sweep all these guys up.
I agree, Mark. Lock them up. Lock them up. Isn't that what Mike Flynn used to say about Hillary? Lock them up. If I did 1/10 of what she did, I'd be in jail now.
Yeah. And then come to find out that it turns out that way, huh?
Wasn't he at the hotel on January 6th? Wasn't he part of that? Michael Flynn and Steve Bannon and all the others. They were. They were.
I got to tell you, I don't think Michael Flynn has learned any of his lessons.
Well, when you're pardoned from your prior crimes, what lesson is there to be learned? Wasn't he initially accused, talking about Michael Flynn? And I know he was Trump's first security director or something of the sort. It's supposed to be like a cabinet level position. And it didn't last long. Apparently he was lying to the vice president, but wasn't the underlying crime that he planned on rendering a Turkish cleric for fun and profit?
Everybody gets those offers to go and kidnap somebody overseas. Why not take it?
Isn't it? I mean, can you register to render a foreign cleric? Can you register? Is there
an application
because
process?
The crime, the alleged crime is what he didn't register as a foreign agent, but his duties, his lobbying on behalf of this foreign government was supposed to be to put a bag over a guy's head and kidnap them and render them overseas. The lying to the FBI about the underlying crimes, that was sort of the smaller issue as far as I was concerned.
I don't think that's posted on Indeed.
Need a new job? Indeed I do. Come back. America's run on bad jobs. Fancy Brian, I bet you've had a few bad jobs. This one excluded.
King of them.
King of the bad jobs. I want to hear all about it. And yours as well. 844-967-2789. More devils.
All right. Should you know it's gonna be? Should we do all right? Should you know it's gonna be? Should we do all right? Should we do all right?
This is the defining challenge of our time.
Would you say I have a plethora?
Hear history as it happens, only on Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
Hey, I'm here from Knuckleheads. Have you seen our new location yet? Come on down to 520 State Street for all your CBD needs. We have a huge selection of gummies, oils, and a variety of other CBD products. We also have a gigantic walk-in humidor. The knowledgeable staff at Knuckleheads will work with you to find exactly what you need. Mention Devil Radio at checkout to get 15% off your next order. Knuckleheads, now at 520 State Street. We'll see you there.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at P4PPC.
Coronavirus update. I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Stocks finished mixed. The Dow up 90 points. World Health Organization leader Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus is worried about the Omicron variant.
I'm highly concerned that Omicron, being more transmissible, circulating at the same time as Delta, is leading to a tsunami of cases.
Numbers from Johns Hopkins University show virus cases have reached the highest level on record, over 265,000 per day on average in the U.S. CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky says the number of hospitalizations and deaths are comparatively low.
This could be due to the fact that hospitalizations tend to lag behind cases by about 2 weeks, but may also be due to the early indications that we've seen from other countries like South Africa and United Kingdom of milder disease from Omicron, especially among the vaccinated and the boosted.
Dr. Anthony Fauci is strongly recommending avoiding any big New Year's Eve parties. I'm Ed Don.
Susan, it's so great to finally be able to get together again.
Oh, it sure is. And I really appreciate you picking up the bill.
I'm happy to. I've got the extra cash. Since we've all been driving so much more again, I've been using Get Upside, the free gas app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Get Upside app?
Yes, up to 25 cents a gallon, cash back every time I buy gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
Some months I make $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the free Get Upside app now.
Download the free Get Upside app now in the App Store or Google Play to save up to 25 cents a gallon when you buy gas. Use promo code FREE for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's up to 50 cents a gallon on your next fill up. You can cash out anytime to PayPal or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code FREE for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code FREE.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. In 2021, Wisconsin utility companies installed and put into service more solar power than in any other year, bringing online roughly 300 megawatts of utility-scale solar in Wisconsin. Renewable energy advocates estimate that the state will see roughly 2,500 megawatts of solar energy in service by the end of 2023, and project that solar will go from accounting for 0.1% of the state's energy consumption last year to 4.5% by 2026. Prosecutors in Kenosha County have filed roughly 90 charges against more than 60 people in connection to offenses committed surrounding the protests that took place in August of 2020 after the police officer shooting of Jacob Blake. Beginning in 2022, Dane Mac, the Dane County Multi-Agency Center, will become a second location for victims of sexual assault to be able to see a professional and receive a forensic exam, also known as a rape kit. You're listening to Devil Radio.
The Devil's Advocates, radio for the 99%.
Ever since I started working, every single day of my life has been worse than the day before it.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, Wacko Wednesday edition. Buddy, sometimes it feels crazy, this job we do, but all things considered, I like my job. I'm
get
a
to
bit of a
create every day.
workaholic.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not exactly doing laborious work, although, you know, the hours occasionally long. I'm not digging ditches over here. This isn't real work. I got no calluses on my hands.
Well,
they're soft as a baby's bottom.
I've destroyed several of my fingers before.
Well, you do actual work. I do less so.
I've sheared the flesh off my hands before.
You've done soldering.
Yeah. Having had no experience doing so, but I knew the idea of how to do it, and I got it done.
And with those big meaty hands, who would not be more equipped for soldering than you, big guy?
These are delicate hams for hands.
Now I got to start. Normally, you know, Crudy's got a couple of stories. I'm sure I've got one here as well, but I've got to ask you. You know, America runs on bad jobs, and basically, we're talking about the service professionals. And they were the frontline workers during the pandemic. And a lot of them got fired. They were the first ones fired, right? The economy shut down. They fired people. And right now, you know, I relished my opportunity to come and do a radio show because this was my only outlet. This was my social contact, my little bubble with you, Fancy Brian. And of course, all the fair callers, hoping I don't catch COVID from any of you people. But, you know, now I'm vaccinated. I'm moving back out into society. And I like my job, so I got no qualms. I love doing this job. Love talking to you people most of the time. Most of you people. But I've had some bad jobs, and Fancy Brian, I want to know, what is the worst bad job you ever had?
Wow.
I suspect you've had bad ones.
No, I'm going through an index of several of them. It depends on what you consider bad.
Well, what do you consider bad?
Well, I mean, because
bad pay, $3.35 an hour. When I started working, the wage was $3.35 an hour.
I got $2 an hour to be a sacristan for
a what?
Sacristan for the church. I set up all the host and communion and stuff like that. I made sure that the church was
entertained the
set up.
priest. Did you?
Basically, yes. I actually had to run the sound. That was the first sound system I ran. Was a church sound system. I played the for the 7 o'clock mass. They didn't have a live band, which every other mass did. I had to play the tape of the greatest hits
Did you hum along,
Godspell.
sort of church karaoke kind of stuff?
Oh, I knew them all. I was in the back snacking on unblessed hosts. It was fine.
Body of Christ.
Not even. I didn't even say that. I just was like, I'm hungry and I can't get over to the donuts in time for the next mass. So, because they had donuts in the
so $2 a mass.
$2 an hour. Basically, yeah, $2 a mass. It was, I basically put in my time there, but that was the lowest I got paid.
That doesn't seem like work. I mean, they didn't give you a W-9 or a W-2, did they?
All right. How about working in the chicken room? What is a chicken room, you say? I work at it was a Roundy subsidiary in Chicago, a new grouping, and then I ended up I needed a job. It was basically I had
man's got to work.
Well, I had gotten a really good gig that paid for me to stay home with Darby when she was first born,
like an acting gig.
Yeah, really good acting gig. And then there were a couple that I really near misses. Chicago Fire could have me as a regular, but anyway, moving on. I couldn't hit on anything, so I ended up having to get a real job, and I had to get the first thing available. A couple of my buddies had, hey, pick up some hours over here. Okay, great. Because I had food service, experience, they put me in the back in the food service area, the chicken room, where I'm prepping fried chicken and all the chicken that you see in the hot bar at your local Roundy's Pick and Save, whatever it were. So I ran the rotisserie. I did that. I prepped all the deli sandwiches. They had a pizza oven.
So
there.
you do have experience with solder guns.
Yeah, basically, pretty much. I loaded up all the skewers. I was the one who got the chicken, and I'm in this back room covered in like head to toe, like
chicken grease.
I would have been fine with you got layers of your own. You have your own clothes, and then there's like the apron, and then an apron on top of that, and then a chef's coat, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Not just because of that, because I have to do it in the cold, and I'm prepping them in the cold, and I'm alone. So at least I had the alone part. The good part about that is that while I was washing dishes and or cleaning chicken, I was listening to my headphones, right? And I heard a voiceover that I did come over on the I'm like, oh,
local
good
radio station or something.
Whatever I was listening to, it was some streaming service, but a spot that I did started airing, and I didn't know it was airing, and I heard it, and I was like, that's my ticket out of the chicken room, hooray! But yeah, I got to work with chicken guts all day, and I still, by the way, eat there because I know I've seen how it's made, and I still eat there. It's fine.
Worst bad job you've had? Chicken room guy?
I don't know. I've worked for people who didn't know how to be a human being before.
Why are you looking at me?
No, I'm looking at you because we're talking. But out in LA, I worked for a guy who just didn't really grow up around any other human beings, and so never learned that he shouldn't basically take his ball and go home in the middle of a game and things like that. And he was relying on me to run his bar for him, and wouldn't trust anything I said because he was a paranoid kind of guy. Anyway, it was the mind screw upon mind screw, and plus I'm also out in LA in a place I'm not familiar with and not excited about. So again, it all depends on the circumstances. I've had a sales job where they told me that the number one priority to sell was a wine we hadn't had in 6 months and weren't planning on getting in forever again. But the new CEO came in and said, we're going to prioritize this. Nothing says, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Then number one priority, this thing we've never had.
Something off the menu.
Yeah. And
I said menu item.
Exactly. But that was the last day I worked there because I pointed it out and he said, come see me in my office afterwards.
I had a couple of bad jobs in my life. I'd love to hear from the audience as well. I suspect some of you have had or will soon be departing a bad job. Let us know about it. 844-967-2789. I'm sure I've told this story once or twice on the radio, probably. Worst job I ever had, making $3.35 an hour. And I had worked at the high school filling in for the school secretary for the vast part of the summer. And it wasn't a bad job. You answer the phone, you get the mail, you know.
It's a lot easier than the work study I did.
Yeah,
but
it was a
all
summer job, and I'm making $3.35 an hour. And I think it was perhaps federally subsidized. I was little orphan Crudy at that time. So as a ward of the state of Wisconsin, I was probably eligible for, you know, a high school equivalent of a federal work study job. So I'm working at the high school office, and, you know, I'm looking forward to the school year starting, and August rolls around. And apparently that's when the normal worker gets back into the swing of things, comes back in August. So I was expendable, let's just say. So they moved me on down the road to work for the public works department. And I thought it was bad, you know, bad in that I was a lazy teenager. When we were like repairing roads, like shoveling hot asphalt and fixing potholes.
Doesn't seem like fun.
That did not seem like fun. And let me assure you, you know, for my lazy ass, it was not a great fit. You know, no calluses, as I've mentioned, still don't have any. But then they gave me one job farther down the ladder, working in a greenhouse at the sewage plant, where they dried out the excrement on like big beds of sand.
Oh, that's good stuff.
And sometimes it was dry and sometimes it was moist, but it was entirely populated with horse flies.
Oh yeah, I would imagine that just a feast for everything there.
So I got to think, probably working at something approaching 120 degrees.
Oh God, yeah.
Got shorts on, dripping sweat. Horse flies just biting huge welts on me. You know, you can't. Once they're on you, you know, at that point you're just paranoid. The whole day I'm spent all day like hiding from the horse flies that would take a pound of flesh per bite. And you know, lunch came, and Crudy went home for lunch, and let's just say Crudy didn't come back that afternoon. Keep the paycheck. I don't want it. Take that job and shove it. I didn't want that job. That was a bad job. I can't imagine any human being what you would have to pay them. And there's dignity in any job well done. I mean, you can do any job with integrity and dignity. You can work hard. I'm not belittling anybody's efforts out there in the world. But if you work in the sewage plant, in the greenhouse, getting bit up by the flies, I would suggest your labor might be more valuable than $3.35 an hour.
Yeah, I'd have to say that. Even at 14, I knew I was getting elevator. Crudy's getting the shaft. Well, yeah, like I said, I did a work study. I was a janitor for a long time at the high school that I was going to.
Did you get the buffer thing?
Oh yeah. I got to do that. I worked for Brother Bob. They called him
Brother Bob.
Yeah, Super Mario. He literally looked. It was right about the time that Mario Brothers came out, and he wore overalls all the time. He was a shorter guy. He barely spoke very much, and he had a really thick mustache. Really looked like Mario a lot, and walked around talking. He said, and he raised his hand like this to go and talk. So he really looked like Mario,
like Aaron Rodgers does after an occasional touchdown.
Mario
Brothers style.
One day he was trying to clean the furnace and accidentally spilled a bunch of chemicals in there and had to evacuate the entire building. But he came out of there going, what's going on? What did everybody say? But yeah, I got to learn how to, you know, that was the interesting thing about that is the social dynamic of it, because you see the kids that are out there on the fields practicing their summer sports and everything, but you're in there working on janitorial stuff. Or let's say I just finished the football practice and they're all going to hang out and I got to go and do some janitorial stuff. You're learning right away where you fit in the class structure of the world based on that. It's pretty darn awesome.
Apparently you and I are the only two humans listening to the sound of my voice right now that have ever had a bad job. The rest of the audience, they're all more than satisfied with their fine and good jobs. Never had a bad job. Have you, audience? 844-967-2789. I can't believe we don't have anyone that's ever had a bad job. Just you and I. We've had all the bad jobs.
So even like, you know, you think, he's an actor. He's got to have, you know, when you're acting, you got to love.
Yeah. What's
jobs.
The worst acting?
Worst acting gig I got? My buddy Adam. He's a nice kid, really nice guy. He tried to do this parody show where I'm playing some giant guy in lederhosen and whatever. They made felt shorts for
similar
me.
To how you're dressed now.
Yeah, they didn't have lederhosen in my size, so they only had to shoot me from the side because one side of the pants were split open and held together and went. So on top of that, I was also had to work in the bar at the time, and a lot of times they would schedule their shoots for when the place was available, when their location was available. So like 4 in the morning, 6, 7 in the morning, right after I finished my shift. And I didn't drink that night. I'm a professional. I'm not that much of a jerk. But I showed up there, and I'm in this, it's some water treatment plant, like you were saying. And I'm sitting there, I'm actually taking a nap underneath a whole bunch of steam pipes in this thing that nobody has been in at least 20 years, just to go and get this scene shot. And I'm not even sure I even got paid or fed. But again, I'm doing this favor for a buddy of mine.
So similar to the work you do for me here at Devil Radio.
Very similar.
844-967-2789. I'll tell you about one other quick job, and then we'll get to a few of the callers. I think a few of you have had bad jobs, but I worked at a manufacturing plant in college, a sheet metal press plant. And I had not worked in manufacturing, and I'm a little, I don't know what the term is, claustrophobic. Like if you hold me down, it freaks me out. I cannot be held down. Don't like being tied up, no kinkiness for Crudy. Just don't like that. So handcuffs, all that kind of stuff bothers me, especially, when I'm the defendant. But anyways, I worked at this place called Northern Engraving, or Northern Enslaving, as we like to call it. And you had to wear like handcuffs at the machine, so you could not stick your hand in and have this big, massive press crush your hand. Well, I understood the notion that, limits your range of motion. But effectively, I had this job where I was handcuffed to a machine, and I'm a little claustrophobic in the first place. So my anxiety level would rise and rise, and it'd be like a 4-hour shift. And occasionally they'd ask, who wants to work overtime? And once I signed up for an 8-hour shift. I spent a couple of weeks in jail. That seemed less time than that one 8-hour shift. Come back, your bad jobs, right here on the Devil's Advocates.
Is today the worst day of your life?
Yeah. No, man. I believe you get your ass kicked saying something like that, man.
Hey, son. How are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it.
When your kid can't find the language, find the lyrics. Start a conversation at soundedouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids, thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families, despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Hi, Don from Wisco Home Goods here. Jeremy and I handcraft our 100% non-toxic candles from locally sourced materials in our Madison, Wisconsin facility. Wisco Home Goods candles come in a variety of unique blends and scents that you're sure to love. Add a little warmth to your home as the days get colder with one of our Midnight Cypress or Up North candles. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing candles and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
Plenty of people start something great in their 40s and 50s. Getting your retirement savings on track is no different. Go to aceyourretirement.org, and in 3 minutes, you'll get personalized tips to help boost your retirement savings. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
I'm Kirk Bangstad, and I own the Minocqua Brewing Company in deep red northern Wisconsin, and I have a super PAC. We make good trouble by buying billboards, radio ads, and calls to voters in northern Wisconsin. We target federal and state elections, think Ron Johnson and Tom Tiffany, and concentrate on a fair redistricting process. Give a donation now if you're able at the MinocquaBrewingCompany.com super PAC tab. Help us make the politics of the Northwoods as clean as our lakes and streams. That's the MinocquaBrewingCompany.com super PAC tab.
Life for us. It's the hard knock life for us.
The Devil's Advocates. Sausage making never looked so good.
Welcome back to the Devils Advocates Radio Show. Going to run the phones here in just a moment. You can be a part. 844-967-2789. I got Batman joining me in studio very shortly. He's co-deviling the entire 4 o'clock hour. Matt Rothschild from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. So stick around for Matt and stick around on the phones. We're going there next. PJ from Madison. You ever had a bad job, PJ?
Oh gosh, I've chosen a lot of bad jobs. I thought I had it figured out which one was the worst one by the time you got to me, and I can't figure out what the qualifying factors are. So I'll just throw out a few of them. What's pretty bad? CNA. If you want to be on food stamps and work overtime and also wash people's bottoms for a living, there's your job. Very dirty work.
Yes, ma'am.
I also was an EMT. If you want to work really, really long hours, like we're talking 80-hour weeks, and also still be on food stamps. Be an EMT. So now you can see I went to college twice here for really bad choices. Now here's the punchline. I have a great job now, like an awesome job, and I'm a janitor. I was a manager for a while. Ooh, bad job. Low pay, super stress. I had to hand out mandatory exercise. I think that one was the worst.
PJ, your phone line's not the best, but appreciate your contribution. CNAs, lots of people work hard, but CNAs, I got to think particularly because they deal with people's hygiene often. That is not a job Crudy would be well suited for. Barely handle my own hygiene. 844-967-2789. Terry from Columbia Heights. Welcome, Terry. Did you ever have a bad job?
Well, I'll tell you, when I was in high school, I was a junior in high school. We lived on the dairy farm in Wisconsin. And in the summer, my dad let me go in and I worked for $75 or 75 cents an hour digging graves in the local cemetery.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And that's a very hard job because they didn't have a backhoe. Me and another one of my friends from high school dug the graves with shovels. That was a pretty bad job.
And how long did that take, Terry? What would that equate to at 75 cents an hour? Would you make about $2 a stiff?
Well, it was a little more than that because it took us about 3.5 hours to get the grave dug, and we had to do it the day before the funeral.
Yeah, I suppose.
So we got that, but then when I graduated from high school, I lived here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I went to work for the Credit Bureau of Minneapolis when I was 18, and I started at $2 an hour. And about 6 months after that, my boss called me in and said, "We've given you a raise. You're doing such a good job." And I asked how much, and they said, well, we'd like to surprise you when you get your next check. Got my next check. It was $2.02 an hour. So I got a 2 cent an hour raise.
Well, that is 1%, Terry, and you probably deserved every penny of it.
Well, I was there for almost 10 years, and by the time I got out of there, I was making $5.72 an hour, which was a lot more than all the other people were making. But I finally decided to get out and go to college, and I did, and everything. I'm retired now, but those were my jobs. And by the way, when you guys vote Ron Johnson out of office, do not send him back to Minnesota.
No promises, Terry. 844-967-2789. Augie, listen in Windsor. Augie, you ever have a bad job?
I got some quick ones for you. I'm 71, retired, working 40 years in the same industry, but first job out of high school, I worked in a battery factory for 1 week and quit. It was the most dangerous setting you could ever believe. Burns, acid, everything around. Could not believe that we were working conditions like that. In college, I worked at a lumber company after my freshman year, and I worked a conveyor line, and I said, this machine is spitting wood. You would take things off the line, run it through this cutter, and it was spitting wood. I had a 8-inch spike of wood go through my right hand, enter my glove, and stick out the other side. Go on my knees, get down, and I'm screaming. The foreman comes over. What's wrong? He opens my hand up. There's a piece of wood sticking out. He turns my hand over. There's a spike sticking up through the other end. He says, "Is the guard down on the machine?" The guard is down. He said, "Shut down the line." Then I worked for the city of Madison when I was in college. Oh, that job gave me a workman's comp to help me get me through college for 2 years of that injury.
Well, Augie, I guess it wasn't all bad. Man, it sounds like you've had a number of bad jobs. I got a few more callers, so I'm going to try to sneak them in here. Jim, a Bears fan from Minnesota. Jim, does that make you a twice loser? But welcome, sir. What do you got for us?
Well, I'm looking at a job, and I'm wondering if your opinion would be it's a good job or a bad job.
Well, lay it on me quick, Jim. I'm certainly full of opinions.
Very quickly, it's a job circumcising elephants, and the advertisement says big tips and a chance to get ahead.
Let's leave it at that, Jim. Well said. Vern from Minnesota. Welcome, Vern. What do you got?
Hi there. That's a good one. I can tell you that I was drafted 9/11/67. I ended up in Vietnam 7 months and a day later. And while stationed at fire support bases and at a signal site on top of a mountain, it rolled around once in a while. You got the shit detail. And the shit detail.
Sorry, Bird can't say that one. 844-967-2789. I'm sure it was a hell of a detail. Stephanie from Madison, never have a bad job, Stephanie.
Oh, I've had a lot of bad jobs before I got some decent ones. One of them, and before I describe it, I want to just tell you real quickly, you were describing being handcuffed to a machine, okay? That would freak me out too. Now, back in the bad old days of labor and delivery, when you had a kid, women, when you're on the delivery table, they had cuffs. They had these wrist restraints. You were cuffed to the table, okay? If you can believe that.
I can't imagine, Stephanie. I was there at the birth of both my sons, and my wife used me like a jungle gym. I have new respect for the strength of that woman, but Stephanie, I couldn't imagine being handcuffed or restrained in any fashion.
Oh, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But one of my really crappy jobs, I had a number of jobs with that were LTE jobs with the university, and this one was UW Hospital. In the kitchen on the tray line, it was the absolute worst job. You would fix the trays up, but you had to you were cleaning off the trays and getting rid of all the garbage and all, washing the dishes and stuff. But there were two things that really kind of made it stand out. Number one, there was a big signs. These are professionally printed signs on the walls. No laughing, no horseplay. You must be working at all times. And the woman that ran the place was a shrew.
Well, I've met a few of those. Hope I'm not described as one. Come back, Matt Rothschild, my fine co-devil. Hour 2 is next.
See you tomorrow. It's time to get to work.
There are many, many jobs for many, many people.
I hate this job. I hate this damn job, and I don't.
This is Chad Spate. Are you thinking about improving or expanding your home? At Chad's Design Build, we're committed to making your home comfortable, healthy, attractive, durable, and sustainable. In fact, those commitments spell our name. And we deliver these services with our outstanding team of professionals who will respect you and your home. Visit our website at chadsdesignbuild.com to learn more about how we are building a better world, one remodeled home at a time.
Hey, this is Rocker, and I'm back on the patio at Salvatore's Tomato Pies on East Wash. I'm having a brand new cocktail you just have to try. It's called Divide and Concord. It features Rocker vodka along with Concord grape, thyme, St. Elizabeth's dram, and a touch of lemon lime. Ask for it by name, Divide and Concord, at Salvatore's Tomato Pies. Find Rocker vodka and Rocker rye whiskey at Vic Pierce on Sherman Avenue. Please drink responsibly.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. A Johns Hopkins University tally shows coronavirus cases in the U.S. reached the highest level on record in the U.S., more than 265,000 cases per day on average. CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky says it's the Omicron variant.
This virus has proven its ability to adapt quickly, and we must adapt with it.
It's casting a pall over the holidays. Here's the AP's Sagar Magani.
Americans were ready to enjoy an almost normal holiday season, but the Omicron variant scrapped that, along with gatherings, trips, and the like. So what to do this weekend to ring in a new year? Dr. Anthony Fauci says if your plan is to hunker down with family and close friends,
a home-related, vaccinated, boosted gathering,
go for it. But
if your plans are to go to a 40 to 50 person New Year's Eve party with all the bells and whistles and everybody hugging and kissing and wishing each other a happy new year,
he'd strongly recommend not doing that. Sagar Magani, Washington.
Las Vegas isn't canceling or scaling back plans for big New Year's Eve celebrations. More than 300,000 visitors are expected for events, including a New Year's Eve fireworks show on the Vegas Strip. Visitors are being told to take responsibility for themselves. In New York, Governor Kathy Hochul says case numbers there are too high.
We're basically preparing for a January surge. We know it's coming, and we're naive to think it won't.
The CDC is investigating more cruise ships due to new cases of the coronavirus. 88 vessels are now either under investigation or observation, but the agency did not specify how many virus cases have been reported. The White House says President Biden will be meeting tomorrow with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The buildup of Russian troops near Ukraine is likely to be a top topic. Stocks finished mixed. The Dow up 90 points. This is AP News.
Susan, it's so great to finally be able to get together again.
Oh, it sure is. And I really appreciate you picking up the bill.
I'm happy to. I've got the extra cash. Since we've all been driving so much more again, I've been using Get Upside, the free gas app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Get Upside app?
Yes, up to 25 cents a gallon. Cash back every time I buy gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
Some months I make $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the free Get Upside app now.
Download the free Get Upside app now in the App Store or Google Play to save up to 25 cents a gallon when you buy gas. Use promo code FREE for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's up to 50 cents a gallon on your next fill up. You can cash out anytime to PayPal or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code FREE for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code FREE.
You know what? I'll tell you something. There's nothing better than a hot sausage, couple 2-3 cold beers, and Devil Radio on the box.
Knucklehead CBD and Vapes isn't just Wisconsin's go-to destination for the best deals from Milwaukee to Madison. It's also your one-stop shop to wrap up your holiday shopping this giving season. Whether it's for family, friends, neighbors, work gift exchanges, or for yourself, Knuckleheads has the perfect stocking stuffer and tree treasures for you and your wallet. There's buy one, get one, 25% off all CBD and Wellness Plus, buy 2 cigars, get the third free, 25% off apparel, and so much more. And get a free stocking stuffer with any purchase over $50. Knuckleheads, 520 State Street in Madison.
Wisconsin. You know that Drew Holiday and Brooke Lopez are champions on the court, but did you know they're also champions for our community?
Hey, Wisconsinites, Drew Holiday here.
And Brooke Lopez here.
I love being a champion.
And today I'm asking you to be a champion citizen.
Defend your right to vote and exercise your freedom to vote.
It's more important now than ever because politicians are trying to restrict our freedom to vote.
They're worried about our power, so they want to take it away.
Don't let them do that.
You've got to block that shot.
Paid for by the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign.
I offer this guarantee to those that advertise with Devil Radio. You will not lose money. You will get return on your investment. I'm Mike Crude. I own Devil Radio. I know it's scary to spend money, but you must invest now in telling customers, old and new, that you're open for business. Devil Radio listeners are hugely supportive of our sponsors. Our creative team will help you craft your message until it works. We will keep running your ads until you tell me you're making money. Call Devil Radio today. We will succeed together. You will make money. I guarantee it.
Here's how you get them. If they bring a beer, you bring an old-fashioned. If they bring cheese curds, you bring a casserole. That's how you make friends. That's the Wisconsin way. That's Devil Radio.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Yesterday, officials at UW Health released a statement that their Madison area locations are dangerously close to their breaking point with the current surge of COVID-19 cases due to the spread of the Omicron variant. UW Hospital's chief quality officer released a statement yesterday that the facility is close to not having the resources available to care for all major concern cases, such as a heart attack, a stroke, or a car accident, due to the hospital taking on more COVID-19 patients. UW Health has begun canceling or delaying scheduled non-essential procedures due to the increase in COVID-19 hospitalizations. A mix of sunshine and clouds throughout the morning, turning to cloudy skies this afternoon, with winds up to 10 miles an hour and a high of 26 degrees. Cloudy skies in the forecast this evening, with a chance for snow flurries and an overnight low of 14 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back, Devil's Advocates. Hour 2. Got to find Code Devil for the entire hour. It's Batman. It's Matt Rothschild from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. He's the returning champ. Welcome back, Batman.
Hey, Crudy. It's great to see you. I hope you had a nice vacation.
I did. Great to get away from Fancy Brian.
I doubt that, but nice to get away, Pierce.
I am odious.
Welcome back, Matt. Real quick, before we close down the thoughts from hour 1, did you ever have a bad job other than co-deviling today?
The worst work experience I had, it wasn't a horrible thing, but I was 16. I just got my driver's license. I wasn't a good driver. It's Valentine's Day. I decided to help a florist out who we knew deliver flowers on Valentine's Day. And I didn't know where to go. I was lost. I got someone's flowers at about 7:30 at night. I was just in a total panic all over the North Shore of Chicago, trying to deliver flowers to these women who were waiting for their flowers, and husbands or boyfriends who were making sure that those flowers delivered. I was catching hell because I was so late. It was a horrible experience, but
I would feel like better late.
Brian's chicken room, not so bad.
I'd feel like as long as the flowers got there during the Valentine Day, before bedtime, at least. If you don't get flowers there before bedtime, that's really going to wreck my dessert plans.
Yeah, no, I think I wrecked a lot of dessert plans that night.
He's Matt Rothschild, Matt. Let's talk about those doing a good or perhaps bad job here in the state of Wisconsin. It's soon to be an election year, Matt. How's the governor doing?
He's playing goalie. That's all he's doing. I worry about Tony Evers against Rebecca Clayfish. I worry that she may win. If it's a strong Republican year around the country, like it's supposed to be. Tony Evers is not a natural politician. He's not a natural campaigner. He's the opposite of Bill Clinton. He's not a slappy on the back guy. He's not a good debater. He's not a good public speaker. He's a nice man, and that got him elected. On top of Walker fatigue, and a lot of people at the grassroots doing a lot of incredible work. But I worry this time around that, he may not make it. The last poll I saw had him slightly underwater, with his negatives slightly higher than his positives. The right-wing base right now is motivated like nobody's business with this ridiculous big lie. And they'll probably come out and vote in droves. And then, is the progressive base going to come out and vote in droves? I don't know.
Matt, do you see any parallels between the candidacy of Tony Evers and here in the state of Wisconsin? There were a lot of Democrats that ran for governor. I know a few.
I know one.
But anyways, outside of those that did it on a lark, there were a number of serious candidates. But I think the electorate, the voters just felt like anybody but Scott Walker. There were a lot of fine candidates, a lot of good Democrats. Tony Evers had the highest name recognition. He had won statewide election. He was the head of the, the education department, effectively, a superintendent of public instruction. And he is a nice, older white guy in a similar mode to perhaps Joe Biden. And we saw a similar sort of dynamic in the primaries play out on the presidential level. And Joe Biden wasn't exactly wowing them in Iowa. I was down there. I was at a few of Joe's events. And Joe didn't win the early primaries, but eventually Joe became the candidate. And I feel like the Democratic electorate said, well, anybody but Trump, anybody but Trump. But here's the problem. Now that Joe Biden's been the president, now that Tony Evers been the governor, they both got to run on their own respective records. And they're a little lackluster. People have been playing defense. They are effectively a goalie against bad governance. And the president's had a hard time advancing his agenda through Manchin and Sinema. So if you don't have no one fell in love with Biden in the same way they did with Barack Obama or Tony Evers in the same way they perhaps did with a more charismatic Dem. So now that they're out there running on their own records, man, I'm worried about both these candidates.
I'm worried also. And here in Wisconsin, I mean, Rebecca Clayfish, people don't associate directly with Scott Walker, even though she was the lieutenant governor, but it's not that visceral. I can't stand Scott Walker. I'm going to do whatever I can to get this guy out of office who's ruined our state.
Because he kind of marginalized her, and she was not his preferred lieutenant gubernatorial candidate. That was Brett Davis. But she did serve 8 years under the man.
Yeah, for sure. But so Democrats are going to try to pin the Walker label on her. But it's one thing to run against the guy himself, Walker, and another thing to run against his lieutenant governor, who was shoved into a closet for 8 years. The thing about Evers, though, going back to the last primary, the Democratic primary for governor, I think he benefited from the fact that those debates weren't publicized. They weren't on TV.
You mean with Scott Walker?
No, with Paul Soglin and Mike McCabe and your guy Matt Flynn, because look, he was a terrible debater. I'm a geek, so I watch one on my computer, but he couldn't even answer the questions about education that well, and that's his portfolio.
My belief was the biggest reason Tony Evers, once he was the nominee, he fared poorly in the general elective debate as well. But it was a Friday night debate. And if I recall correctly, it was like Green Bay Packers family night. And it was not a well viewed debate, let's say, all things considered, like an hour and 15-minute debate, and nobody watched it. And it was probably to the the Democrats' benefit that no one really saw the fact he wasn't really very good.
Yeah, he's not a good debater. And also, if running against Rebecca Clayfish, maybe she'll pull better among suburban independent women and so-called moderate Republican women in all across the state, and especially in the WOW counties, some of whom were sick of Walker. And so, this is a real dilemma for Democrats and progressives in Wisconsin if Tony Evers can't get across the finish line in November, because look, there are all these anti-voter bills that they'll just bring off the shelf. There's the crazy anti-abortion stuff. There's the Wisconsin Elections Commission that they'll probably destroy if they get the power to destroy it. So it's a really important election. I mean, to some extent, I think Tony Evers has gotten his voice a little bit over the last several months, understanding what he's up against as far as these folks who hate democracy. I mean, I think that's what should be on the ballot. Are you in favor of democracy or not? Because we have a lot of these Republicans like Gableman and Rampton, Representative Rampton, who wants to, rescind our electoral college votes a year after the electoral college is over. I mean, it's crazy land out there.
Well, Rampton tried to get me and Fancy Brian and Dominic arrested last Christmas. Called the cops on us.
You were messing with the Christmas tree.
Apparently we were.
He was mad that I was singing better lyrics than they were.
I hate to digress, but there is some breaking news on a national level. Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell convicted on all but one charge of helping to recruit, groom, and sexually abuse underage girls for Jeffrey Epstein. So apparently lots of guilty verdicts coming down against Ghislaine Maxwell.
Well, thank God for that.
Well, I'm not sure that is quite as, the fact that Epstein never had a stand trial in a legitimate way, of course, leaves a little bitter taste in the victim's mouth, I suspect. But Matt Rothschild is my fine code devil. And Matt, I brought you around to talk a little bit about the big lie. And the big lie, you mentioned it, the big lie, the coup, it's still active. They're still doing it in plain sight, in slow motion. Hell, they've asked for more money and an extension on the time. Let's look back to last January. Man, right here in the state of Wisconsin, there were 15 Republican lawmakers that sent a letter to the vice president of the United States the day before the insurrection and said, please do not certify the Electoral College. And above and beyond that, there were 10 fraudulent electors, including Bob Spindell, who is a Wisconsin elections commissioner, who claimed that they were duly elected Trump electors from the state of Wisconsin, where Joe Biden clearly won. We know, we've recounted, we've audited, we know the outcomes.
So in hindsight, this looks to me like these Republicans were in cahoots with White House strategists to engage in the coup. They were setting up the coup from Wisconsin. This was this Wisconsin angle on the so-called Green Bay sweep that Steve Bannon was calling it. The Green Bay sweep. It included these false electors.
Call the play, run the play.
Yeah, crazy. These Wisconsin false electors, and then the 15 legislators, including Janelle Brandtjen, Representative Brandtjen, who is head of the Wisconsin Assembly Committee on Elections, if you can believe that.
Well, I can believe it because I live in the state. Matt, they were setting up effectively a circumstance where either the House of Representatives gets to pick state by state who they want the president to be. And if you live in a Republican state, and according to the House of Representatives, we would have a Republican advantage. Well, the state of Wisconsin, if left to Republicans who have no morals, no compass, they would have voted and effectively instituted Donald Trump, despite the vote and the will of the people, Matt. They would have made Donald Trump president. And here in the state,
Pence could have taken that slate of false electors out of his pocket and said, well, here are the real electors for Wisconsin, even though Trump lost here. I'm going to say that Trump won, and here are the electors on the Republican side that I'm going to certify.
Well, Matt, by consideration of the Wisconsin Supreme Court, it was only a 4-3 vote whether or not they were going to overturn the electoral outcome in the state of Wisconsin through some act of the Supreme Court.
Exactly. That was about a year ago, almost to the day, where the Wisconsin Supreme Court, only by a 4-3 majority, with Justice Hagedorn playing the hero in this one, saying that this would be an unprecedented and gigantic step to take to throw away tens of thousands of ballots that the other 3 conservative justices on the Wisconsin Supreme Court seem perfectly happy to do.
He's Batman. He's Matt Rothschild. He is the executive director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Matt, are you excited about the new Batman movie coming out?
Hadn't thought about it, really.
Sort of the namesake, at least the moniker sake. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates on the other side. Your phone calls could be a part. 844-967-2789. We'll talk about more. The big lie, the coup, the Green Bay sweep. It's ongoing.
What are you? I'm Batman.
The pen is truly mightier than the sword.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get.
I'd build a rocket and watch it soar, clean the oceans and make the world a better place. Oh, she can STEM.
Learn more at She Can STEM. A message brought to you by the Ad Council.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids, thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families, despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
President,
Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates, and he would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
I think it's just vapor.
Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
One vape pod has as much nicotine as one pack of cigarettes. Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Spruce up your home with non-toxic vegan candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents that make a perfect holiday gift. Plus, at Wisco Home Goods, we believe in giving back. With our Do Good, Smell Good campaign, a portion of the proceeds go to local charities. So support a Midwestern company that supports our local communities. Order now at wiscohomegoods.com.
When they go low, we get high. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, a Wacko Wednesday edition. I got to find Code Devil. He is Matt Rothschild. He's Batman from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Not such a bad job, I hope. Matt, Gableman, this investigation going on in the state of Wisconsin. I often describe him as a corrupted former Wisconsin Supreme Court justice. I don't even think that's arguable at this point, but clearly he's a partisan. This is not, some objective review of what happened in the state of Wisconsin, because we've already reviewed it. Nothing happened in the state of Wisconsin. And this investigation is really setting the stage, as you mentioned, to get rid of the Wisconsin Elections Commission and perhaps for a Republican elected Secretary of State to take over the electoral components here in the state of Wisconsin just in time for a contested 2024. Matt, am I so far off? Don't you think on some level that's the plan?
I think that's the end game, which is ironic because it was Republicans who established the Wisconsin Elections Commission after they took an axe to the Government Accountability Board in 2015 because it was too nonpartisan. It was actually going after Scotty Walker because they understood that Walker had likely violated a law on the books here in Wisconsin that said you can't coordinate with outside groups. Walker was coordinating with outside groups like Wisconsin Clubs for Growth, going around sitting on the laps
to the tune of millions and millions of dollars,
millionaires and billionaires, and urging them to write checks out to Wisconsin Club for Growth. And then he and his buddy at Wisconsin Club for Growth would tell, say how to use all that money for Republicans who are running for office. So, that was their shell game. The Wisconsin Supreme Court under Gableman, when Gableman was there, ruled that some novel interpretation of theirs of the First Amendment allowed Scott Walker to get out of jail free. They actually fired the John Doe 2 prosecutor and
eliminated the John Doe investigatory process.
Investigation entirely. You said he was corrupt. Here's why he was corrupt: because Gableman benefited to the tune of more than $1 million in expenditures from Wisconsin Club for Growth and Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce to get his job on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And it was the special prosecutor who was investigating Wisconsin Club for Growth and Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce. So it was all very cozy.
And part of the directive of the court at that time was burn all the evidence, was it not? I mean, literally, like burn the evidence.
Yeah, one of their edicts was destroy all the evidence. I can't remember a time when a court has said destroy evidence. It was an astonishingly corrupt moment for the Wisconsin Supreme Court, which for a long time under Shirley Abramson had a great reputation as one of the leading state Supreme Courts in the country, but now it's just a joke of a court.
Well, Gableman's no longer on the court. Even he could read the tea leaves and realize he was, even as an incumbent, he was not going to win re-election. And so Trump lost the state of Wisconsin, and he being the corrupted former Supreme Court justice, Gableman came out and declared it, a rigged, stolen election nearly immediately, and showed himself a partisan in a number of ways.
So why is he running this fishing expedition? I mean, how partisan are you going to get when the guy that Robin Voss hires already said before any facts were determined that the election was somehow corrupted?
Was Scott Walker not available to take this job?
I don't know. What about Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty? You know, they could have hired them. They came out with a report that was a little more subdued than the junk that Gableman's putting out there.
Well, we don't yet know the end product of Gableman's investigation, but we know that he's using it in a very sort of a prosecutorial fashion. And we're not even sure he has the power of subpoena, at least to force or compel private testimony, not public testimony, but down at this office chair he wants to force mayors to give private testimony.
It's the price of being in jail. I mean, he not only wants to subpoena them, he wants to jail them. I mean, you know, this is a conflict of
speak or be imprisoned.
Yeah, I mean, this, you know, he's not the attorney general of the state of Wisconsin. You know, he's not in the executive branch. He shouldn't be prosecuting people. The legislature is not a prosecutorial office. So I think they may win. You know, the city of Madison and the city of Green Bay may win on separation of powers here.
Well, the Racine, Wisconsin County Sheriff also has basically accused 5 Wisconsin elections commissioners who gave advice during a pandemic about, you know, how you should treat people residing in nursing homes.
And this guy's terribly biased too. I mean, during the Trump campaign, he was giving a speech to a group called Women for Trump.
You mean the Racine County Sheriff that now is suggesting that 5 Wisconsin elections commissioners, including 2 Republicans, that gave advice uniformly, initially all 6 voted, but when they shaved it down to 5, one guy was exempted, and that was Bob Spindell. And we mentioned this guy's name because Bob Spindell, the elections commissioner who the Racine County Sheriff thinks should be exempted from the felonious charges, is the one guy that committed fraud to support Trump's, you know, overturning the election. Let's call it the soft coup. Let's call it the Green Bay sweep.
Yeah, Spindell, the false elector, one of the 10 false electors sent to
the good one, as the Racine County Sheriff would call him.
You know, he did vote, as you pointed out. I mean, he did vote the first time that there
same
was,
advice.
All 6 of the election commissioners voted to basically to save grandma's life in the nursing home and let grandma vote by absentee ballot rather than force special voting deputies, strangers, to go into the nursing homes in the midst of the, you know, high watermark of the pandemic until now, and you know, infect everybody in the nursing home. They weren't supposed to do that. It was against Evers's executive order, so they couldn't get anyone into the nursing home to let them vote. So they did what was prudent and also legal, which was to send absentee ballots to all those in the nursing home who had requested absentee ballots or voted absentee ballot before.
Well, Matt, of course, who would ever want to serve on a commission where the mere act of giving advice, taking a vote during a pandemic, would be a felonious act that could get you put in jail? Well, that seems pretty chilling. That seems to be the point. Come back with us. That's Batman. He's Matt Rothschild. He's my fine co-devil for the hour. You could be a part of this big program. Join us on the phones. 844-967-2789. The 4 o'clock happy hour. It continues.
So sweet, so fine, so nice. Oh my, oh
Hey, you want to get high, man?
You know, I'm an Eagle Scout.
No, man. I believe you get your ass kicked saying something like that, man.
Cut through the bullshit. Get the information the deep state doesn't want you to know. Only on Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Pat Slattery here of Slattery's Automotive Service. Winter's coming, and that means now's the time for you to start thinking about snow tires. Travel winter roads with ease on Hakkapeliitta snow tires. Hakkapeliitta is the top-of-the-line snow tire, made in Finland and eco-friendly. If it's snowing, they'll get you there. Give me a call at 608-848-6123 to get yours set. Slattery's Automotive Service, your trusted choice for local service and repairs for all your automotive needs.
At Chaz Design Build, our tagline is building a better world, one remodeled home at a time. Simply stated, we want to be a part of the solution to leave the world better than we found it. That's why we've invested in a 20 kilowatt solar array, which provides over 90% of our electrical demand at our shop, office, and design studio. And that's why we invest in local causes which provide opportunities and which confront structural inequality. At Chad's Design Build, we are proud to partner with you, building a better world, one remodeled home.
Verdict. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell has been found guilty of luring teenage girls to be sexually abused by millionaire Jeffrey Epstein. The verdict caps a month-long federal trial in New York featuring sordid accounts of the sexual exploitation of girls as young as 14, told by 4 women who described being abused as teenagers in the 1990s and early 2000s at Epstein's homes in Florida, New York, and New Mexico. She faces a likelihood of years in prison. Omicron variant lives up to its hype. Johns Hopkins reports a record of more than 265,000 people being infected with the coronavirus each day across the country. Most of the infections caused by the highly infectious variant. Number of people hospitalized around 60,000, half the figures from last January. Chicago Health Commissioner Dr. Allison Arwady says the unvaccinated in the city are being hit hard.
Our hospital surge, make no doubt about it, is being driven by unvaccinated Chicagoans.
I'm Tim McGuire.
Susan, it's so great to finally be able to get together again.
Oh, it sure is. And I really appreciate you picking up the bill.
I'm happy to. I've got the extra cash. Since we've all been driving so much more again, I've been using Get Upside, the free gas app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Get Upside app?
Yes, up to 25 cents a gallon. Cash back every time I buy gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
Some months I make $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the free Get Upside app now.
Download the free Get Upside app now in the App Store or Google Play to save up to 25 cents a gallon when you buy gas. Use promo code FREE for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's up to 50 cents a gallon on your next fill up. You can cash out anytime to PayPal or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code FREE for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code FREE.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. On Tuesday, officials with the Wisconsin National Guard and the Dane County Regional Airport announced that they will update residents in January on the investigation into PFAS or forever chemicals used on the airport grounds. The organizations will hold an open house to discuss the investigation that will allow residents to ask questions and submit written comments. The investigation may delay PFAS cleanup efforts for an additional 12 years. Sean Barnes, the Madison police chief, threatened to recommend firing any officer found to have leaked confidential information about an internal investigation into a police officer that was videotaped engaging in sexual activity in an unmarked squad car earlier this year. The Milwaukee Bucks beat the Orlando Magic last night 127-110. The Wisconsin Badgers men's basketball team will face off against Illinois State this evening at the Kohl Center. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about, The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Got to find code DEVIL. That's Matt Rothschild. We're taking your phone calls, 844-967-2789, talking some Wisconsin politics, not exclusively. There's also some breaking news. A jury has found Ghislaine Maxwell, that is the associate of Jeffrey Epstein. Well, she is guilty of sex trafficking a minor and taking part in Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking conspiracy. Guilty on 5 of 6 charges. That is the breaking news at this hour. I got to find code devil Matt Rothschild. Matt, let's take some callers, if you don't mind. 844-967-2789. Ross from Middleton, say hi to my pal Batman.
Hey, Crudy, and hey, Matt.
Hey, Ross.
So I think Gableman is really, he's an embarrassment. It's basically a taxpayer-funded political advertising for the Republicans, just to keep it in the news until next year's election. The question that I sort of have for you guys is, I think of the January 6th insurrection, sort of the what do you want to call it? It's coming up. January 6th is coming up. And I sometimes think, what would it take to get to have it been, say, Democrats that would have stormed the gates? And I think, oh, it never would have happened, never would have happened. But I sometimes think, and this is where I need your guys' help, had Wisconsin, had Georgia, and what I don't know is the other states, had Republican governors or were able to sort of take the electors and flip them to the legislature. And so had these states flipped, had there been enough states to for Trump to have succeeded, had they sort of done this coup, this kind of idea where they flip the electors to the legislator, and had he been successful in doing that, we would have been standing there like what in the heck do we do now? I could picture us all going to Washington, D.C. and storming the gates.
Well, Ross, I don't know if we would have had the same sort of violence. We saw the storming of the gates at the Wisconsin state capitol. They had 100,000 people in response to Scott Walker dropping the bomb. And that was a peaceful movement. So I don't think there's a direct analogy between what happened on January 6th and what may have happened had they been more successful at the, let's call it the soft coup, the electoral college coup. Matt, do you think there was ever any possibility that the electoral college coup could have passed? Was this simply a stunt, a show, or were they hopeful for actually an overturning of the outcome?
No, they wanted to make it happen. I mean, that's what all the evidence, the Eastman memo, all the evidence coming out of the January 6th committee, they had plans in place. And, if they were able to flip some electoral votes at the electoral college or stall for 24 hours and then, accept the bogus electors, Bob Spindell from Wisconsin and his 9 other partners in crime, and flip Pennsylvania and Arizona, they could have made it happen. And then what would have happened? Then there would have been mass protests by Biden supporters and pro-democracy supporters across the country. And then the Proud Boys would have been out in the streets. And then this was the last move, I think, of the Trump plan. There's all this civil unrest. I'm going to call out the troops under the Insurrection Act, and we're not going to have another inauguration except for me. The election's canceled. The Electoral College is out of business. I'm president under these emergency powers that I have here under the Insurrection Act and a couple other executive orders that are still on the books.
And you referenced the Eastman memo. The Eastman memo said specifically you utilize the National Guard and the U.S. Marshal Service, and you go and basically claim the ballots in all 50 states. You federalize, and then you throw out the ones that didn't vote for Trump.
Yeah, you grab the ballots and look, there are powers that the president has under the Insurrection Act and under some National Security Directive 51 and some other things, and the National Emergencies Act that allow him, unbeknownst to the people of the United States, to put troops into the streets and essentially, say our Constitution's over. Let's remember the pillow guy was in the White House with a yellow legal pad that said martial law on it. That's what they were planning for.
Matt Rothschild, my fine co-devil for the hour. Matt, we keep predicting, or at least we're laying out the groundwork for what we think it is Republicans have in mind here in the state of Wisconsin. And a Republican governor willing to sign off on the misdeeds, the malfeasance of a Republican-controlled legislature. And all they'd really have to do is tap, and one must presume, if Rebecca Kleefisch, the Republican candidate for governor, wins against Tony Evers, will probably down ticket Bob LaFollette. I forget it. Might not be Bob, but LaFollette loses.
Doug LaFollette.
Doug LaFollette, thank you. Amy Loudenbeck, who's a Republican lawmaker running to be Secretary of State.
Yeah, I wonder why she
wants to reclaim the powers for the Secretary of State. Well, of course, if LaFollette wins, if the Democrat wins, they'll just leave the status quo in place and they'll bemoan and have some other plan. But if they win the electoral power of the governor and the Secretary of State, they simply throw out the Wisconsin Elections Commission, and now we got a partisan in charge for 2024. Matt, that's not a harebrained conspiracy. That's probably the plan they're working towards.
Yeah, they've got a couple options. One option is to have Amy Loudenbeck beat Doug LaFollette for Secretary of State and then pass a law that entrusts election administration and election certification. in the hands of the Secretary of State, not the Wisconsin Elections Commission. The other one is if Doug LaFollette manages to hang on to his office because people voted for him over and over again, and he's got the name from God in Wisconsin, LaFollette, what they'll do is just pass a bill that says Wisconsin Elections Commission's out of business. And we in the legislature are going to determine who wins the elections. And so we'll be like Georgia or worse.
Well, that was the avocation of U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, who also in all probability is going to be on the ballot next year. And Johnson claims, at least in regards to federal elections, I believe, just assert your power.
Yeah,
Republicans, you control the legislature, just go take control of the elections.
Yeah. I mean, he said to Republican officials in the legislature, I don't run this place, but if I did, this is what I do. I just totally ignore the Wisconsin Elections Commission and decide by ourselves who wins. And how corrupt is that? If they get a vote count that they don't like, they'll just toss it in the garbage.
Man, we've got decentralized elections in the state of Wisconsin, like 1,850 voting districts. Got more elections workers in this state than like 1/5 of all the election workers in the entire nations are working here in the state of Wisconsin. So let's say they did take control of how the electoral process worked. Short of going to 1,850 districts and installing their own plants in each and every district, we'd still have some checks and balances. Would we not, Matt, or am I being overly optimistic?
We would, but what they might try to do is what they tried to do at the Wisconsin Supreme Court, which is invalidate a whole batch of ballots, say all the absentee ballots, and just throw them away, or all the ballots from the nursing homes, which they were trying to do too.
Any ballot that comes in Milwaukee County after midnight.
Yeah, any ballot that comes from a place that they know is reliably Democratic. Now, I just do want to say it's not all Republicans. State Senator Kathy Bernier, Republican from Chippewa Falls, she runs the Senate Elections Committee, and she said it's time to end this charade of Gableman and Branchen and all this other nonsense. End the charade. And then she said poignantly, Benjamin Franklin said we've got a republic if we can keep it, and we may not be able to keep it if this stuff keeps up. And those were pretty strong words from a Republican. She deserves a lot of praise. She's kind of like our own Liz Cheney.
But the special prosecutor, Gableman, went to her district, gave a speech to the local Republican Party calling for her resignation. Nothing like putting a little heat under her ass for being a little, less than complimentary of his farcical investigation.
And she said he's the last person in the world who should be telling somebody to resign. She thinks he should resign, I think. But she's been very outspoken over the last few months about how dangerous this fishing expedition is, how dangerous this repetition and regurgitation of the big lie is, how dangerous the feeding of rancid red meat to the Republican base is for our democracy.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. That's Matt Rothschild. He's my co-devil throughout the entire 4 o'clock happy hour. And we're always a little happier when you participate. 844-967-2789. Next up, Dick from Madison. Dick, say hi to Batman.
Good afternoon, guys. Something with Maxwell's thing coming in just now. I know this is going to sound conspiracy.
Go ahead.
But how's this for one? Epstein disappeared when Bill Barr was AG. Now he's not AG. Now let's make sure this woman lives, because maybe we'll get a late Christmas present and she'll sing like a canary and take Donald Trump down.
Well, that seems like wishful thinking, Dick. But what do you think, Matt? We now know from the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, and the verdicts have come down, she is guilty on 5 of 6 charges. But we found out during the course of the testimony during the trial, Matt, that Trump went to, on pedo airlines, whatever he called it, down to Pedo Island in the Virgin Islands, his private island down there, at least 6 more times than had been previously known. Now, there are many seemingly credible accusations against the former president of sexual assault. And people forget he ran like these teenage beauty contests and had a bad reputation for going and ogling the girls backstage. I'll be dating her in 10 years. Well, I don't know, and I have not seen it directly stated in any reporting that Donald Trump, had sex with the 15, 14, 13-year-olds. But one of the women was recruited at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, I don't think Maxwell's going to take Trump down. I mean, she could take a lot of people down, including Bill Clinton, I think. But, it's up to Merrick Garland really to take Trump down. And where the hell is he? It's time for him to get off his backside and push an indictment here at Trump. I mean, it's just ridiculous. There's a mountain of evidence. How much more evidence do you need than, give me 11,870 votes for election tampering at the very least, much less conspiracy to commit sedition. And so it's outrageous to me that the attorney general is dragging his feet so badly.
Man, I've always thought that tax evasion ain't sexy, but it's got teeth, as I've heard said. If Donald Trump's going to go down, it's probably one of the financial crimes. It's probably commission of fraud, misrepresenting the value of one of his properties to the bank as opposed to what he told the taxing authority, because it's easier to prove. There's a track record. Matt, do you expect some indictments of Trump? I'm not saying he's going to get marched off to prison right away, but do you think the news tightens? Do you think there'll be charges in the new year?
I do. I think there'll be charges out of New York. There may be charges out of Georgia for election tampering, but I hope he doesn't get off the hook. I hope he isn't prosecuted, just on the tax evasion or convicted on that. He needs to be prosecuted on this assault on our democracy, which is the biggest crime that a president can commit other than playing footsie with the enemy. And so it's really incumbent upon the attorney general to bring this charge against Trump. Election tampering and conspiracy to commit sedition.
Man, if there are over 100 Republican Congress people and senators, and even if it was, quote unquote, a theoretical exercise, the soft coup, the Green Bay sweep, well, they still knew they were overturning the valid election of the United States. Matt, do you envision criminal charges against up to 100 Republican Congress people? Is that a bridge too far to think criminality because they'd go along with a harebrained criminal scheme of this sort?
I don't think there'll be 100 indictments. There may be a couple representatives or senators who get hauled in, who should be hauled in. I think they all should be hauled in who are participating in this act to subvert our democracy. But if they can get one or two, and if they can get one or two to sing against Trump, make them sing.
I got a few tunes I'd like to lead. Come back with us. Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Maybe last live show before the new year. We haven't decided yet. We'll see how tomorrow goes. But you got one last segment to talk to my pal Batman. Dial him up. 844-967-2789. More Devil's Advocates on the other side.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have.
Can we call that treason? Why not?
The COVID-19 vaccine
Do we really know about the long-term?
Did you read that thing on the internet about that?
There's a lot of talk about COVID-19 vaccines. Talk to your doctor or healthcare provider to make the decision that's right for you. Visit getvaccineanswers.org for more. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families, despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertisement. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Hi, Don from Wisco Home Goods here. Jeremy and I handcraft our 100% non-toxic candles from locally sourced materials in our Madison, Wisconsin facility. Wisco Home Goods candles come in a variety of unique blends and scents that you're sure to love. Add a little warmth to your home as the days get colder with one of our Midnight Cypress or Up North candles. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing candles and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
Here's today's STEM tip. Make your selfies look even better with science. Take your pics at golden hour right before the sun sets. The wavelengths made by the atmosphere create a perfect golden light for that beautiful face of yours. Learn more at Chic and STEM. A message from the Ad Council.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstead of the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I'm excited to announce our new beer, AOC IPA. This IPA pays homage to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a champion of the progressive movement. AOC IPA is now available in stores throughout Wisconsin. Check our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to see which stores in your area are carrying it.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
Well, it's all. Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. One last segment for this Wacko Wednesday. 844-967-2789. Got to find Code Devil for like 10 more minutes. He's Matt Rothschild from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Matt, if people like the Democracy Campaign and the God's work you're doing over there, how did they get involved?
Go to our website, wisdc.org, WISDC for democracycampaign.org, and you can follow us on Facebook as well. I've got a new book out called 12 Ways to Save Democracy in Wisconsin. You can buy that book. 75% of the proceeds go to the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign.
And who gave you a ringing endorsement recently? Some big name, I think I know.
Oh, that's nice of you to
endorse the book.
Ralph Nader, who was my employer. My first job out of college, I went to Washington, D.C., worked for Ralph Nader on a little magazine called Multinational Monitor. And Ralph Nader was kind enough to say my book was one of the top 12 of his holiday reads.
How do you make it onto Obama's book list, or maybe Aaron Rodgers?
I'm not going to make those. It was nice to hear from Ralph Nader that way, and I'm glad he picked the book.
And how
you're in the book, Trudy?
I've heard, I've read my brief caption. In fact, you've given me an autograph book, and we gave away one to, I think, Jeff Steinhauer, one of our fine audience members, got that book. But if people want the book, and tell them the title and where they can find it again, Matt.
Yeah, it's 12 Ways to Save Democracy in Wisconsin. They can get it on Amazon. In Madison, they can get it at a Room of One's Own and Mystery to Me, or they can order it from the University of Wisconsin Press, my fine publisher.
Matt, is there any way to save democracy in Wisconsin? I'm a little skeptical. The glass half empty kind of guy. I mean,
we've got to beat this anti-democracy movement, because that's what it is. We're facing a militant anti-democracy movement in Wisconsin and around the country. Here in Wisconsin, it's being led by Gableman and Voss and Branchin and Rampton and that Racine sheriff. These folks don't really revere our democracy. They're perfectly willing to trash our democracy to keep far-right people in power. So we've got to, first of all, uphold sensible Republicans like Kathy Bernier and Rob Coles, who are raising their voices against this. We've got to get everybody on the pro-democracy side united. And we got to try to talk to a few people who may have been, suckered into some of this crazy propaganda and bring them back from the abyss, because, otherwise, we're in real trouble.
Matt, I hear that Fox News ratings are down somewhat, but Righty Whitey Talk Radio, certainly here in the state of Wisconsin, especially in southeastern Wisconsin, in the Milwaukee media market, no, they're off the charts. The engagement levels, I watched WISN, the far right, the home of Belling and Clan O'Donnell, they're pulling over a 10 share. And you combine that with WTMJ pulling like a 7.5 share. I mean, it's a monstrous number, like something approaching 20% of all Milwaukeeans at any given time are listening to right-wing talk radio. And I don't think it's just the Republican lawmakers. I mean, they got a media machine behind them, Matt.
This is what concerns me, not just about the elections, but really about the future of our democracy, because this rancid right-wing radio has riled up the base, and they're perfectly willing to do just about anything to get their people in power. And I mean anything. This flirtation or this celebration of violence. I was listening to Vicki McKenna when I was driving up to La Crosse one day to give a talk, and she was celebrating Rittenhouse like nobody's business. This
Patriots, go get your guns.
Yeah.
And that's the day after he shot 3 people.
Yeah, this is something we haven't really seen in this country before, and we need to recognize the threat that it poses to our democracy. This is not business as usual. This is something extraordinarily bad. We haven't seen anything like it since 20,000 pro-Nazis gathered in Madison Square Garden in 1939 under Nazi flags.
Matt, do you think the attention that is being brought down on the January 6th, the prosecution, 600 plus now, and perhaps we'll see implicated Congress people and Republican, perhaps it goes all the way up to the top of the fish, the smell. But Matt, do you think that the criminal prosecutions, I mean, 4 or 5 years in prison seems like a lot of time, but these small fish cases, I'm not sure that they have the deterrent action on all these wannabe militia members out there. Hell, they were plotting to kidnap the governor of the state of Michigan last year.
And they were working in Wisconsin to do some of that too. No, I don't think that has any kind of deterrent effect right now. I think you need to go after the big fish. You've got to indict Trump, and you've got to convict Trump of this crime against our democracy. Otherwise, it's just going to happen again, either with Trump himself in 2024 or with someone else.
I've heard it suggested that the January 6th commission could make criminal referral to the Department of Justice, but the advice they give that they think there's criminality, perhaps from the former president, well, it would have no weight of prosecution. And Matt, I've seen it suggested that, don't do that. Don't push the DOJ, let the DOJ arrive at its own conclusion. But man, how in the hell do we motivate Merrick Garland to do the right thing? And I think the right thing is certainly a prosecution here, but how do we make that happen, sir?
Well, I hope the January 6th committee does push Merrick Garland. That guy needs pushing. I don't know what's taking him so long. He must be pushed into doing what is right and necessary for the future of our democracy, which is to indict and prosecute Donald Trump.
Do you think the January 6th anniversary, do you think that will bring new light to this circumstance, or will it be a revisit of the many fine tourists and patriots that visited the Capitol 1 year ago?
I just think people are in their own camps. They're in their own media universes and ecosystems. And I don't think the anniversary is going to change anybody's mind, sadly.
I thought you'd have better news for me.
I'm sorry. It's just people are dug in right now. They believe what they want to believe, regardless of what the actual facts are.
Do you think everyone's like that? Like, I don't believe that Trumpsters believe the big lie. I don't believe it, because they're so motivated to go vote next year. If you thought your last vote was stolen from you, if you thought the election was rigged, why are you so anxious to go vote in the next election?
Well, not everyone believes it, even of Republicans. You can look at the polls both ways. 64% of Republicans say the election was stolen. Well, that means, there's 36% out there who don't. Though among those 36%, those are some of the people we need to talk to.
It is said statistically that Scott Walker's recall woke up the sleeping electorate in northern Wisconsin. It wasn't really Trump. It was Scott Walker. Do you think that electorate, that low propensity voter that first came out in the recall and apparently became Trump supportive, do you think the state of Wisconsin still has that sort of passion outstate?
I do. I think it's out there. I mean, we needed to knock Walker out when we had him down. We're still paying the price for that.
Matt Rothschild, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Too late to wish you a happy Hanukkah or Merry Christmas, but Happy New Year. It will be a glorious New Year. I feel quite confident. I'll tease it one more time. Big news in the new year.
And thanks for this bottle of whiskey you gave me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it goes great with your cornflakes or anything, man. Batman, Matt Rothschild from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Thank you for what you do. You are doing God's work. Fancy Brian, appreciate you as well, buddy. Miss you tomorrow, whether or not I'm on the radio. And the rest of you, I won't miss you for long. We'll be doing it live again by January 3rd, maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Stick around. Earl Ingram's next, right here. Double Radio 92.7.
Democracy matters, especially when it is inconvenient.
Rumpus time is over.
It's over. Nothing matters anymore.